Welcome to this special episode of my podcast, godislovetruthlife.com or godislovetruthfreedom.com, because a life without freedom is not a life worth living. My name is Jerry Cabazzuto, and today on my phone, I have a very special guest. His name is Lio, and Lio is an extraterrestrial from Florin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And otherwise, do you like to identify yourself as a Pleiadian or Flourish, or how do you like to refer to yourself as? The best way to refer to is Nordics, is what he just responded. We are Pleiadians, but we are the same race. Nordics and Pleiadians that most people know have two different tasks. Two different tasks in life. They evolved separately. Got it. Great. And I guess we can start with why are you in a human vessel? Well, there is something. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Lio. So the message that I just received is that he is what one would call an exchange. So he was born in a human body. However, his soul is that of a Pleiadian. And at around 8 years old is when he realized he was what is called a starseed, or someone who is not, from this planet. Did I summarize that well? An exchange is a starseed. Thank you for that clarification. Yes. And then right now we're talking over the phone. Why aren't I using a implant telepathic channel like other podcasters perhaps out there? So Leo answered that some podcasters may have had an implant placed against their will, perhaps usually in childhood, or others may be light workers, specifically channelers. And so, they can channel or be able to communicate that way. However, since Leo, my friend, is in a human body, it doesn't really make sense to do either of those things, because I can just call him. Does that summarize everything, Leo? Okay. And then why are you interested in teaching humanity? So Leo answered that He perceives humanity to mostly consist of spiritual children. They do not make their own decisions. They don't take action or responsibility. Um, they don't act with a sense of will. And yeah, just and help others. They need to stop thinking just about themselves. Um, and it's not just him teaching humanity these ways. There are other beings. Is that what you meant, Leo? Right. So, for example, there are other channelers. There can be a tendency to not have a smooth communication channel between the 3D plane and the 5D. Um, and as for why Leo personally wants to teach humans, he shared that he considers himself a messenger of truth. I do it for everyone across the galaxy. If there's a purported expert in their field, I always try to question them. Um, so, specifically among those that are helping, they're not revealing the entire truth to humanity. Maybe they haven't been told, but whatever the reasons, um, Leo has not been told everything, and he took it upon himself to learn the truth and is now trying to correct those wrongs. Did I miss anything, Leo, in that translation of what you shared? Great. Awesome. Thanks. He said I did it perfectly. Yay. Let's go into, well, before we move on, I like to just talk about definitions. What is the 3D? What is the 5D? Is there a 4D? Like, what's with the Ds to orient people? Okay, so Leo just shared that we first need to, before answering the question of the 3, 4, 5D, etc., we need to first discuss what is density and what is dimension. They're two different subjects. So dimension is, involving the field of physics, whereas density is a way to measure social evolution. So currently, we beings are in a 3D construct. We are not 3D, it just appears that way um, in this dimensional plane. The 4D is energy, and you said 5D. How would you say that is described again, Leo? Is space. 3D is just the object. It needs to exist in a space like 5D. Got it. Which is 5D, excuse me. So yeah, life cannot exist without a 4 or 5D. So there is what's called a dome, that is something that is around us to make everything look and appear 3D, and that this disconnects us from the other fourth and fifth dimensional planes. Did I capture that, Leo? Fourth dimensional planes don't exist. Leo added that 4D does not exist because you need space to have a plane in the 5D, and that there are other planes above the 5D, 6, 7, etc. How many planes are there, Leo? Could be infinite. Awesome. That's cool. Um, okay, so what would you like overall to teach humans? So Leo shared that he wants to really affect the way humans behave towards each other. The fact that they've, buried their egos, um, which actually ends up creating a case where the ego controls individuals' lives. They're blindsided by it. They let their I heard you say they no longer see their fears. Is that correct? They no longer see who they are, their emotions, their needs. I see, right. And so they engage in behaviors like lying, cheating, hiding things, ignoring others' needs. So they bury their own needs, and they learn this from a very young age. This is very consistent with a lot of the work that I have learned through the work of Mark Passio and others about this idea of objective morality, right? Like, um, you know, this is what's missing an understanding of objective morality. Basically, it can be boiled down to, not harming sentient beings, not stealing from them, and um, yeah, like using force against violence to defend. And yeah, just caring. Like if one suffers, we all suffer. And these very, very basic concepts are missing in humanity. Um, do you have anything to add to that thought, Leo? Leo said, no, that's perfect. So yeah, I'm really struck by when I asked you, what you want to teach humans, you started with essentially morality. Um, one would think, hey, here we have a human contacting an extraterrestrial. Where's the UFO technology? Where's the free energy technology, etc.? Why is morality such a foundation, such an important place to start? So, Leo began by wanting to clarify that technology has actually, in fact, already been shared, but is currently being hidden by humanity's leaders, governmental figures. Um, and so, in looking at the sort of various intergalactic players, we have the Nordics, um, Pleiadians coming from Florine. I hope I'm saying that right, and I'm so sorry if I'm not. Uh, they're more advanced in, you said social advancements. Is that correct? Civilian applications. And then we have the Galactic Federation, which is advanced in the sense of, space technology and colonization. So, for example, the Galactic Federation can build spaceships very quickly. Nordics use wireless tech. Um, Wireless electricity, excuse me, thank you. And interestingly enough, as a lot of us in the truther community already know, the wireless relay was learned from a human, Tesla. While he was in Florine at one point, the Nordics learned about this technology from Tesla while Tesla was a human on this Earth planet that we're in. And so this is an example of how humanity has tremendous potential, but is very he Leo used the word dense to describe, yeah, just the um, he described humanity as currently being a density class 1 civilization, and that, yeah, the behavior of our leadership in concealing this technology that was given, weaponizing this technology, um, sort of, yeah, this is why morality is, would you say, is why we need to start with morality, Leo? Leo added that, so if you look at patents, for like an inventor, so let's say an inventor wants to fill out a patent application, um, you know, and it's based on, let's say, Pleiadian technology. Is there a space where he can um, admit that he's not the one who invented it? Obviously, the answer is no, right? In human patent application forms, there's no space to say that it's from another civilization. Whereas, for example, Pleiadians, to this day, um, in their patents, admit that the wireless technology being used is based off of Tesla, um, and so obviously there's been advancements on that, but yeah, there is room in their patent system for non-Pleiadians being responsible for their technologies. Is there anything you would like to add, Leo? So Leo wanted to add and say that in Nordic patent system, it's more about sharing credit. It's not really like the human patent system. Humans use patents as a way to hide technology, whereas for the Galactic Federation, for Nordics, it's the opposite. They try to um, get aggregate all the technology that exists in their civilizations and archive it and share it in a way so that if anyone wants to use or yeah, just take advantage of those patents, they can. Is there anything else, Leo, that you would like to add to that thought? So Leo just shared that this archive system, this patent system, doesn't include just technology, right? It also includes history. And what is history? It's essentially um, um, a conglomeration of stories. So they gather all the perspectives they can, and it's up to the researcher to find their own version of history, since there isn't one truth. So it's the responsibility of the individual who's doing the research. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that thought, Leo, that maybe I didn't capture? He said that's about it. And I just wanted to add that that's very in line with this idea of being an autodidact. So just we have the internet, we have, libraries, books, we have all sorts of ways to gather knowledge as truth seekers and tellers. And for us to arrive at what is the truth, right? We have to do our research. We have to dig deep and find our own, you know, figure it out as take responsibility for that process. So yeah, that's very cool that I as a human and others in our small group have this understanding. But unfortunately, the way history, especially, is taught in human schools, is in the state school system, especially in the Western societies. It's very much you're given one narrative, you're meant to memorize it, and that's it. You're not really like meant to question it. We weren't originally planning on going in this direction, but I am curious. What is the education system like in Nordic society? So Leo shared that Nordics have a sort of boarding school system for children. So children learn the basics through doing, through practice. So, for example, if they're learning about the economy, instead of being given tests, they have assignments. So they're given a currency of some determined value to be used in the assigned time so that they can trade with each other in an enclosed area. And they don't really have teachers. Adult figures are more in a supervisory role where they let children draw conclusions for themselves and teach themselves, essentially. Um, and Leo also shared that there are children from many cities brought together to learn in a specific area, um, in an enclosed area together, which I think is so fucking cool. He also shared that once a person becomes an adult and they're ready to kind of start their life, they find what their interests are and they develop and pursue those interests in academies and further schooling and so forth. Or just like sometimes for fun, like they just really like a subject. Did I capture that, Leo? He wants to add one more thing. So Leo shared, and this is really fucking cool. What I'm about to share, what Leo shared, is that he has visited and observed these sort of academic cities built for children while the children are on vacation. And he was sort of seeing that these academic cities are constantly changing the architecture, and they're also building microclimates within these cities to help the children learn about the different kind of um, you know climates or places throughout the different parts of their planet, which I think is such an amazing way to create a travel experience for children, to create just like learning by doing. A lot of what you shared, Leo, is very in line with on in our human world, what we call a Waldorf education. So Rudolf Steiner, I don't know if you're familiar with his work, Leo, but he was a sort of German occultist who de-occulted or stopped hiding a lot of the esoteric knowledge, including the importance of educating children to actually learn through exactly the sort of practices that you describe. So getting away from this idea of like a teacher teaching a child to memorize and spit back something, having an experience, emphasizing cooperative learning, emphasizing learning by doing. So this is great. And part of me also just thinking about the sort of upper schooling that you guys have. In on Earth, a lot of young adults decide to do soul-sucking majors because they think they need to do that. It's not something they're interested in, but in order to live on this planet, they need to study finance so that they can get a home someday or whatever. And so a lot of humans don't pursue what they're interested in. They don't follow their passions. They don't learn by doing. And it's just so apparent in this conversation that, going back to what you said earlier, that this idea of, well, humanity has this problem of just ignoring their own needs from a very young age. Well, look at our education system. What are your thoughts on that? So Leo shared that, in Florine, where he's from, for example, that oh crap, we lost connection. Okay, so Leo added that for young adults in their education journey. There's not really one way of learning. However, the academy sort of system that they have makes it more simple. But yeah, folks are free to work and, learn and make their own material. They can learn on their own. However, if people want to approach an expert in their own educational journey, they can, and they can, just work directly with that person. But yeah, basically, um, engaging in an academic institution is not a must. Is there anything else, Leo, that you would like to add to that thought that maybe I didn't capture? He said that's all good. Great. I just want to say there's a part of me that is so happy for you guys and so fucking sad and disappointed at humanity's choice. We have chosen through our school systems we've adopted to have children be forced to learn things they're not interested in from a very young age. Not pursue their interests, and then if they have any desire to, be able to have it, this is a perception. It's not real, right? But they have a perception that they need to study a certain subject that's soul sucking, like finance or I just love that example. In as their quote unquote major, so that they can like then become part of whatever, like a banking system, which then just becomes this horrible loop. So I'm really happy for you guys. I'm just really sad for us in hearing about how awesome your guys' education system is. Yeah. Do you have anything to respond to that? Yeah, go ahead. So Leo added that Pleiadians are very similar to humans in that they can provide a good example for how humans could be doing things, because obviously the way humans do things are not very efficient is the word he used. I would add immoral, but anyway. So yeah, doing things more efficiently. There are other civilizations, for example, that may not use currency. They may not even have an education system. So yeah, just Pleiadians in particular have a lot to offer and teach humanity, since a lot of their sort of culture and systems can be applied to our society. So yeah, they're pretty similar to humans, and we can take advantage of their experience. Anything else that Leo, you wanted to add? All right. So in I just for complete transparency, because I'm on phone connection with Leo, I have to pause and start the recording. And in that process, I had another guest join the call. His name is Steve. And when I asked him, "Are you an extraterrestrial? Are you human?" We kind of arrived to a point where it doesn't actually matter. And there may be some extraterrestrial vibes in there, some Pleiadian vibes, some human vibes, whatever. One thing Steve shared was that it's the overarching goal is not for humanity to become Pleiadians, right? We want humans to evolve in their own way. So if if humans if the goal was for humans to become exactly like Pleiadians, then Pleiadians would have to stay here forever. And the point of the switch, or did you mean exchange when you said switch, Steve? Okay. He so I, in my asking Steve for clarification on his choice of the word switch, to finish his original thought, he wanted to share that, Pleiadians are here to inspire humanity and to show humanity that, hey, we humans can do this, right? But yeah, going back to this idea of well, what do we mean by switch, right? We can stay ourselves, right? And the perception is when we will choose. So we'll see when we get there. In a moment, could be that moment could be now. It's our choice. One thing I wanted to add to what you said, Steve, is this idea of like in chemistry, human chemistry, physics. I don't know if it's the same. Well, like there's this idea that like in Heisenberg's principle, that when you try to observe the location of an electron, you affect its location just through the act of observing. What are your thoughts on that, Steve? Okay, so Steve wanted to clarify that he speaks for himself as a possible Pleiadian. He's here as an individual. He chose his own way. And he also wanted to share that his being Pleiadian is a color in a spectrum of colors, right? It's one of his colors. And also, I forgot to mention that Leo had shared, okay, well, humans often ask, how come extraterrestrials aren't saving us? Well, extraterrestrials say back, it's not going to end there. We don't want to dedicate ourselves to always raising children. Mic drop. Okay. And then Steve said, going back to the Heisenberg principle that I brought up, yeah, so that's, a very basic principle. And once one is aware of that principle, that by existing, your perception, that relationship um, is a kind of hard truth. It explains a lot of things. So, for example, for perception, what you're looking at right now is reality, and for reality to exist, you need your perception. It's a dual relationship. It works both ways, and so once this concept is understood, you have to hold multiple perspectives, right, of other beings, other people, in the case of humanity on Earth. So, one person may be looking at a chair, another person may be looking at that same chair. That one person may have a memory of that chair with a different emotion than you, and that difference in detail can make a huge difference. But so, yeah, once this concept is understood, you don't have to change yourself. You realize you need to change your perception of things. So you may want to change, the cycle you're in, or, whatever relationships you find yourself involved with, these layers of illusion, right? And once you peel these layers off, you are left with a base reality. And what is that reality? It's the present moment. It's being yourself. And from that space are infinite possibilities. And yeah, so once you understand that life doesn't just happen to you, that the present moment is happening all the time, it can be somewhat scary at first, but it's also true. And then Leo added that, if you look at it in terms of, left versus right, they're not separate, right? They're extremes of the same sort of orientation. Um, and then Steve added, we have this concept of the illusion of separation, right? Like, once we understand that that's an illusion, we may go back and ask, but why did I have to keep testing that idea and concept with every single subject in our lives? We don't have to. Let's just stop testing that. And then Leo shared a quote, which I'll read here. It says, "Our subconscious is the only thing that has the ability to witness reality in its true form, and yet it has the ability to create it from scratch." So this, could be a quote to consider for the next dimension. Did I capture that conversation well? I feel like I condensed it a bit too much in a way. Okay, Leo. Steve said beautiful. Oh, sorry. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, Leo's sending me a different quote. So he wants, okay, right. So the quote that I read was not quite in line with the the quote that Leo meant for me to read to finish that thought, is the illusion of separation is the best explanation for every mystery, but it is always wrong. Siddhartha Gautama. Um, Steve said that's a really nice quote. Damn, Buddha. Yes. Who said our right? Who said the first one, that our subconscious is the only thing that has the ability to witness reality in its true form, and yet it has the ability to create from scratch? Is that also Buddha? Oh, it's Pleiadian. So Leo shared that quote is 1,000 years old quote, from before they attributed names to quotes. So yeah, that's a very old Pleiadian quote. Okay. All right. So Steve shared a quote as well. He who controls the meme controls the universe, which is both hilarious, but also, yeah, there is a science behind memes. There's almost this magical quality, and yeah, Leo added that Pleiadians. Have may not have an idea of why, but it's just known or proven to be correct. Did I summarize that correctly, Steve? Okay, great. All right, I'm getting affirmations. So Steve just remarked that Pleiadians are a kind of the nerds of the galaxy, and that there's so much science that they even have a science that explains why they can't explain other sciences. And then Leo shared a quote, which I'll read here. Reality as we know it is our complete understanding of it, but understanding it in terms we can percept may not be the actual reality, since its core is infinite, but our perception is finite. So no matter what, we could never really understand it. Our reality is a cluster of events we have managed to perceive, but actual reality is everything we can perceive and everything we can never. I'm going to butcher this name. I think it's a Pleiadian one. CHP Adatayomara X203. Oh, sorry, X203 is when he said it. 100 years ago. Thank you, Leo. I'm not familiar with your guys's nomenclature. Steve said that is a beautiful quote to Leo. Okay. Yeah, I love this topic. So much was just discussed. I want to go back to this idea of the illusion of separation, right? Like in doing plant medicine journeys, I find that there was a moment, for example, when I was doing psilocybin mushrooms where I felt fucking connected with everything, including other beings that I've always known but never knew I knew until that moment I was reconnected with them. And it was fucking beautiful. And I had to go back and I didn't want to. And it was very heartbreaking to come back to this reality because I was like, the separation I'm always feeling, right? But yeah, it's an illusion, right? We are truly always connected, and just reminding ourselves of that and even on like an anatomical level, right? Like the boundary between, if I press my fingers together, one finger to another, what are those? Well, those are atoms. Well, what's an atom? It's just mostly empty space, right? And we have this like concept of touch that we layer on top of it, that we explain through nerve endings and blah blah blah. But what is it really? It's just all a bunch of empty space. Steve's laughing, and yeah, and he's saying, when will you know the empty space? Yeah. I love this conversation, guys. This is awesome. Does anyone else have anything to add? Okay, so I'm recording again. Steve and I had a weird kind of moment where we were kind of like recognizing each other. I kind of like recognized his voice. He recognized my voice and face. And yeah, I do feel like there are moments, right, where we meet certain people and we kind of like realize that like we may have met each other in the astral. We may have met each other in past lives. Who knows, right? Like, yeah. What are everyone's thoughts on that? Or do we have any thoughts on that? Steve shared that, yeah, from what he knows, it's both yes and no. All possibilities are there. Certain things maybe yes, certain things maybe some no. You may think yes, but that also could be an illusion that the mind is playing, right? And so it's really important that one goes through that process slowly and in removing these layers of illusion one at a time. While one can do whatever they want, he said that he used the term full retard, that he went that way for several years, and he had to stop. It became dangerous. So yeah, just remembering not to stress yourself out about that process. Anything else folks want to share before I move on to the next topic? Or so Leo asked Steve which star family he thinks he may also be. Oh, so Steve was saying that he suspected that part of him may be from another galaxy, but that while he does 99% connect with Pleiadians. There's a connection with oneness that he can't explain. And so whenever that arrives to him, he thanks that aspect and, says, yeah, thank you. I needed that today. Um, so yeah, Leo was saying Andromedans are all about this idea of oneness. And yeah, Steve then shared, he, as time goes on, these ideas become less and less important to him, and that he is home right now in the present moment, and he doesn't really care anymore at all about this idea of origin, and he could be from anywhere. He doesn't stress about it, and that he is able to love himself unconditionally, which I think is beautiful and so important. And yeah, just responding to this conversation, I think this is sort of at the heart, right, of going back to the state of humanity, the condition of humanity. Doesn't have to be the state. The condition of humanity currently is one of self-loathing. Humans choose not to love themselves unconditionally, and that's learned, like we said, from a very young age. It's ingrained through parenting styles and education systems, etc., culture. So yeah, like arriving back to that love that is needed is so important. What are folks' thoughts on that? All right. So the next topic I wanted to discuss is the role morality plays in Pleiadian society. So how is what are the morals of Pleiadian society? All right. So Steve, well, going back to this idea of morality, right? There are morals in the Constitution, but it's not the sort of same idea of morals that maybe we have in our human society. They're not like natural laws. They're more of a warning sign to the government, since Pleiadians are a very rebellious, civilization culture. If the government goes against the people, they know that the government's going to have a civil war, and so the Pleiadians in government, are shitting themselves essentially, in sort of making sure that they don't that they avoid that civil war scenario. And then Steve shared that we trust each other in doing the same sort of basic things. We've figured out that we're not going to argue about what's more important than something else. You all may have the same sort of 10 things that you think are most important but you're not going to argue over, you just do them. You just do the 10 most important things, right? You don't, let's move on. Pleiadians view arguing as a kind of waste of time. And then Steve was sharing, it's his passion. It's a big part of him to be an explorer, to take action, and it's a big part of all of us, right? Did I capture that, Steve, correctly? Okay. And then Leo then shared, Steve assented yes that I was doing fine. Leo shared that, yeah, there is a natural order of things, right? But there, like Steve said, there is no, what's more important, right? They look to nature, the way nature works. The tree has a freedom to lay somewhere. Everyone has that same freedom, right? Freedom of life. And that is equal to freedom of death. So when you do something, make sure you're not hurting others in the process, and that includes trees. So yeah, just doing whenever you're doing things and everything you do, just do it the best you can. And if you find someone that can do it better, learn from them rather than fighting them on it. Um, and this is more of a side belief for Pleiadians. It's a base belief for other civilizations like Andromedans, but that everyone should be leading experts in their field, so that you can trust everyone to complete each other. Um, and then Steve added, you have to trust where everyone's supposed to be. These concepts of, race, gender, this intersectionality. Look, I see you for real, really seeing other people, other beings. And then Leo shared that, in their civilization, in their society, you don't really need leaders. You have, yeah, sure, corporations, governments, but there's no concentration of power. There may be like a prime minister figure, but that figure is making rapid decisions. They're not representing the voice, of taxpayers, et cetera. And he shared a joke that Pleiadians have, but it's also quite true, that if something doesn't bother you, mind your own business. And then Leo gave an example. So, and I think, Leo, you were describing a place in Florine. Okay, so he said yes. There's an area of shallow seawater with small islands, and yeah, people live on them. And that the main water source for this area is this huge waterfall. And at the top of this waterfall, there's a sort of devil's whirlpool sort of situation, which is sort of surrounded by a huge field of poppies. And what are poppies used for? They're used for human heroin. And so this fresh water source is infused with heroin, essentially. And so there are signs around this lake that tell people, don't drink from the lake. But it's not really enforced in the way that we humans may think, right? These signs are more of a warning for you as an individual. So long as you're not hurting other people from drinking that water, which everyone in that area does, you have the freedom to do that, right? And so, yeah, this whole minding your own business, if it's long, so long as you're not hurting others, yeah. Did I capture everything? Is there anything anyone wanted to add? Leo wanted to share, and because this is such a central foundational understanding in their culture, this is why he forgot to mention it. Don't lie. Pleiadians never do this. They understand this concept from a young age. And for us humans, right? Like, be as transparent as you can. Don't lie. Let others make informed decisions. To the best of your knowledge of yeah, the truth. Did I capture that, Leo? Okay, so Leo wanted to add that, yeah, if a foundation for society, like if there's no transparency, When no one shares everything that they know, then that society will always be built on lies and half truths. And that's a very unstable foundation. And then Steve added, humanity will have to face this truth, this reckoning, right? You were a part of it. You individual human listening, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. It's this process is part of growing up and becoming aware, right? Of everything, taking responsibility, right? And also, right, loving yourself, right? That's taking responsibility for everything. And he shared that his own ego can suck that up, that goodness up now, right? Like sometimes we may not want to face certain things. We may not want to remove our uh, rose-colored glasses, but that other side has a right to exist. Now, he's not saying there is a blurring of good and bad. There's certainly good and there's certainly bad. However, there's a fundamental sort of notion here that life is just so separated here that everyone's focused on everyone else's business, the majority of people, humans. And that's why nothing happens. Nothing progresses. I stopped typing at this point because I just was laughing and crying in my heart at the same time. Did I capture everything, Leo, Steve? Yeah. Steve shared that, why this works, right? When you're in each other's business and why nothing gets moving is because everything starts from you. You are created your own reality by existing. So if all your time, your energy, your thought, your is on anything else other than you, everything else which you have zero fucking control over, it's important to just come back to reality. That's the thing. It's hard. It starts with you. Even if we and this actually like made me happy, right? Like Pleiadians, other, benevolent civilizations wouldn't be here if it was a hopeless situation, right? Like if we can all work together and get to this point. Steve, did I capture that? Did you? Thanks. Yeah, of course. And recording in. So Steve had to leave, but yeah, I just wanted to reflect on everything that was shared, right? This is a very, I think whether it's a governmental authority figure or in a lot of organized religions, you have this messianic figure or, with money, which is an external object of worship in humanity. There's so much externalization, right? And wanting to control the external. And yeah, I totally agree. Like once we can just focus on ourselves and sort of working on our own perceptions and where we put our own thought and energy, like that's a lot of beautiful, wonderful things can happen from that point. Leo, did you have anything else to add to that? Okay. I wanted to ask you, so without giving too much detail, you are a kind of leader of leaders, so to speak. What is a leader in your society? So Leo shared that he is an ambassador on behalf of the Pleiadians. So essentially, he is in a leading position, mostly as a representative, right? He has a lot of experience and years, and he's able to represent the flourish in communications with other civilizations as clearly as anyone else from fluorine. This is what it means by his duty. Um, and I wanted to add and share that I think there's a difference between being a leader as an authority figure and being a leader as in a sovereign, ruler of oneself, right? Um, how would a typical uh, uh, flourish or Pleiadian, how would they describe what a leader is in your society or your civilization? Yeah. In some organizations, Leo was saying there is a hierarchy similar to humans, although it's rare. Usually, everyone kind of works as an expert in their own field. And so they get to call the shots and everything they're an expert on. So, for example, in his own work, he may be an expert in many fields. So that's why he's in the role he's in. But some things that quote unquote should be in his jurisdiction, he gives to someone else because he may be less learned in that subject. Um, so even if that person is essentially subordinate, and here I literally had to feed that word to Leo because he didn't even, that concept is just so not ingrained in their society. Sorry for the twinkling noise. I'm near a washing machine. So even if that person is essentially subordinate, they're essentially familiar with things that are out of um, that he may not be an expert in that field. It's not his job to kind of ask what they're doing. He trusts them in doing what they know how to do. And to that, I say, in general, I'm noticing just, yeah, your society has so much more love and trust and autonomy on an individual level. There's the way um, you didn't even know what the word subordinate even was because it's such a foreign concept to you. It's just like it's inspirational for us humans. We can learn so much from you guys. Yeah. Um, Anything else? I'll be sure to include, you shared some amazing artwork with me that we'll be sure to share with the audience. I think we covered a lot of ground today. Anything else you want to share, Leo, in this recording? Yeah, I asked Leo if he wanted to add anything, and he said he doesn't think so. I would like to add that, I've been more and more vocal about my connection with you in, the truth community that I'm a part of, because as I mentioned to you in a chat this morning, Leo, that yeah, like for humanity to ever have any chance at evolving, it's really important to and to get to collaborate with other civilizations and to advance and share technologies. Like we're going to have to work on our morality first and foremost. We're going to have to work on these principles that we're lacking, the self-loathing condition that we've put ourselves into. And I want to end with what Steve said, right? Like you guys wouldn't even be here making contact with us if it weren't for the fact that there is hope. What are your thoughts on that, Leo? Leo shared that he does believe there is hope and that he's here to make sure it happens. And for those that may not believe that he's an extraterrestrial, whatever, suspending our disbelief and being able to just receive information, I think, is a very important aspect of learning. While I understand that there may be um, sort of the logical mind may ask certain questions. Oh, Leo wants to add. Yeah, go ahead. Leo shared that some Pleiadians don't think that he's actually human. Um, so I guess it works both ways. But yeah, I think what did it for me as an empath, as someone who really feels each other people's feelings, on my second kind of real connection with you, Leo, I just saw your heart and it was full of light. And I suddenly realized that everything I ever thought about extraterrestrials, it just went out the door. I realized you were telling the truth. I realized you were for real. And I don't think of you as a god or anything like that. You're just another being that, you know, I can turn to for advice. Hey, how does your civilization do things? What can we as humanity learn from your civilization, so that we can better ourselves? That's the sort of joy of these sort of uh, yeah, extraterrestrial contact moments, right? And not just contact, right? Like relationships. Like I think of you and consider you a friend. Um, so yeah, thank you for being my friend, Leo. He says thanks. All right. Bye bye, everybody.